Life hurts sometimes. When it does, care less about the future, past, and present. What if I told you that there's a secret to being a better person to stop worrying about these? If you banish worries, you will lead a productive life. In this video, you'll discover why you should care less about the future, past, and present. More importantly, I'll share Robin Williams' survival strategies. Stay tuned until the end for this eye-opening adventure.
You know, as we come to the end of this phase of our life, we find ourselves trying to remember the good times and trying to forget the bad times.
Robin Williams once said, "I don't know how much value I have in this universe, but I do know that I've made a few people happier than they would have been without me. As long as I know that, I'm as rich as I ever need to be." And yes, he was right. Whatever happened years later was not his fault. Believe it or not, your future is out of your control. Yes, it could rain tomorrow, but wouldn't it be foolish to get wet in advance? Most of the time when people think about the future, they only think about the bad things. We don't realize that tomorrow can be better than we envision. So what does Marcus Aurelius say about caring less about the future? This man was the last of the 5 good emperors of Rome. He was a notable Stoic philosopher and the author of Meditations. His advice and work are still relevant nearly 2,000 years after his death. Often he writes about the need to stop thinking about things you can't control and focus on what you can. He says everyone should live in the present without worrying about the future and regretting the past. In his words, forget everything else. Keep hold of this alone and remember it. Each one of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already or is impossible to see. He adds that everything starts and ends within ourselves and our minds. What many people don't know is that worry and anxiety are akin to fear. And yes, fear is a significant roadblock to success. It is our fear, anxiety, and worry that afflicts us, not the events beyond our control. Think of the last time you were distressed and how much you were hurt. What if I told you that that pain was not from the action itself? Yes, it had nothing to do with that. Instead, you were hurt by how much you estimated it. You can control your thoughts because these thoughts influence your happiness. You don't need to worry because what purpose does it serve? Does it address the issues? Certainly not. Stoicism is about acceptance of reality. It is about rejecting unreal burdens, which are a figment of your imagination. I've said a lot about worrying less about the future and living in the present. The truth is that our world is full of uncertainty. But then we can be like Stoics implementing some strategies. The first is to think first and act second. Stoics say we should react based on reason and virtue, not emotion. Instead of blindly acting when you're afraid or upset, stop and think. Live by these virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and self-discipline. Another Stoic lesson I find helpful is the need to not fear death. In times of crisis, the human mind is focused on death because it confronts us daily. The focus on death increases fear, which drives irrational actions. Death is inevitable and should not be feared. Instead of worrying about losing someone, appreciate them while they're with you. Lastly, focus on what you can control. Be rational, accept change, be mindful, and don't fear death. Have you heard the saying, "The past is the past"? Well, let's look at it more closely. Our experiences shape our behavior in all situations. Our perspective on the past influences our present. But what if you wake up tomorrow with no memory of the past? Would it change who you are? Would you think about things the way you do? People attach so much importance to our memories that they inform our feelings about the present. It's hard to let go of the past because our mind makes predictions based on past events. We think about how excellent our lives would be if we existed in a different circumstance. We play back many alternative scenarios of how things should have been. But guess what? The past holds us hostage because we cannot change it. Nobody has control over the past. Unfortunately, it is one of the hardest things to let go of. Regrets are like prisons we built for ourselves. However, the good news is that we hold the key to our escape. Learning to untangle yourself from the past brings so much peace and freedom. Speaking of untangling yourself, Is it possible to be free from the past? Of course it is. But first, how does Robin Williams heal from past hurt? He makes fun movies. Years ago, a teenager asked about his favorite movie. He declared that it was Aladdin because parents could watch it with their kids and feel like children once again. The laughter helped adults heal from past hurt. Like Robin, you can find new ways to heal from past experiences. The first step to freedom is changing your stories about the past. It may have turned out badly, but it doesn't matter. For instance, you grew up in a slum, your father was violent, and your childhood was a mess. You can either focus on how bad you turned out to be, or how you'll amend the present. Would you want to be a terrible father like your dad? Wouldn't you rather create a safe environment for your children? These memories shouldn't act as prisons, but as crucial life lessons. When you change your perception about your awful past, you start finding insights on improving things. What if your father was violent because of his environment? What if he acted out of frustration? Would he do all that if he had a good job? These questions could help change what the past means to you. Some may disagree with this strategy because it minimizes what happened. This is where the Stoic principle of amor fati comes into play. What does it mean? It means to love your fate. That is, acknowledge and embrace your past. Lastly, the Stoics say that when life hurts, care less about the present. But how can we navigate the future if we don't care about the now? The present is all we have. From here, we can stir into the past and the future. So far, we've established that dwelling on the past and making false predictions for the future is wrong. What then becomes of the present? You see, every power we have comes down to this moment. You can control the choices you make in the present. You can choose to watch this video now or later. You can control these voluntary thoughts and actions. The problem is that we are often carried away by the thoughts of the past and the future until we lose sight of the here and now. This explains why people get overwhelmed. Note that everything that brings us happiness happens in the present. While it's okay to ponder on the present, it's unhealthy to care too much about unimportant things. I'm talking about factors we can't control. Marcus Aurelius says worrying about the challenges life throws at you is pointless. It's not up to you to decide how life treats you. It's up to you to react how you want. But guess what? We're always complaining about how unfair life is. And to Stoics, it is of no use. Marcus Aurelius compares this reaction to a pig billed to be sacrificed. It kicks and screams, but to no avail. Eventually, the owner would not change his mind. Don't be like the proverbial pig that gets sad when he's about to be sacrificed. What would Robin Williams do in a similar situation? He would look around and appreciate the precious things in his life. He connected with his family and friends, and appreciated every moment spent with them. In those moments, he realized how blessed he was. You cannot avoid your fate, but can accept it. We can't get the world to grant our present wish or force things to go our way. So what's the way out of this? It's simple. Save your energy. Don't feel disgusted because you'll become more upset. Adversity is not an excuse to be sad. Imagine if everyone wore sadness on their face during adversity. The world would be a terrible place. Consider your present challenges as an opportunity to apply Stoic philosophy to your life. We've established that worrying about the future, past, or present is like trying to catch the wind with your hands. It's impossible. You make yourself sad by doing it. But that's not all the Stoics are concerned about. They've also outlined a few secrets you must keep away from the public to live a quality life. I explained it in detail in this video. You want to hear it, so check this out.